Welcome to another episode of Stoke Meter, and today we have Denny Wagstaff with us. How you doing, Denny?
I'm doing great.
It's a
great day.
It is a fantastic day, and it looks like one of our partners in crime just got off the website, but that's okay. He'll come back on. Yeah, see, there he is. He's popping right back up. But I have to give you a quick background of Denny.
Oh, wait, hold on a second.
And,
hey, Mo, I kicked myself out.
Yeah,
there you go. Yeah, turn that side.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's Karchner for you.
Sorry about
he
that.
just has to make an entrance, right?
It put a recording notice on my screen. I went to go close it, and it kicked me out. So sorry about
that. And that's what makes
all right, continue.
But Denny is a very successful franchisee and a businessman. And the way that we met, well, Denny, you tell him how we met. It was random.
It was the 4th of July. My wife and I had just moved into the neighborhood a few months ago, and our neighbor said, "You guys got to come out and watch this because this is going to be crazy." So I went and got my wife, and we were standing out in front of our house and just looking up, and everything was like a war zone, fireworks everywhere. And so we just started walking the neighborhood, and we ended up at the same corner as Maurice and his friends. And we're looking up and watching the fireworks, and we're getting pelted by the remnants of fireworks. And Maurice was like, "You guys need to come over and sit down, get out of this. Come over here. We're worried about you." And so he gave up his chair, I think. And my wife and I sat down and then after that, we just started chatting. And before long, it was very evident that we were like, we do the same stuff. We know the same people. We do the same stuff. It's just weird that it's taken this long for us to run into each other.
It's funny how small the world is once you start making those connections, right?
It is.
But the other thing about Denny is this: the more I found out about him during that conversation, it absolutely blew my mind. He started businesses, I believe, at 21, right? You were young when you started flipping houses back in the day, right?
Well, I was pretty young. Grew up with working in my dad's restaurant, but it was in college. I'm like, I'm not going to be a restaurant guy.
Yeah.
And so I actually bought a franchise for like when I was 21.
Wow.
Called Career Concepts. My wife had a little money, and so we mortgaged our house, the triplex that we bought. We took a little mortgage out on that and bought our first franchise and started in that business pretty young.
What franchise was that?
It was called Career Concepts. It wasn't around for long.
Okay.
I ended up working in the corporate office, and I was with them for like 3 years. And one day I went into work, and they said, "Oh, by the way, we're bankrupt, and and we're closing our offices." And I'm like, "Okay."
I mean, I'm laughing at it now just because I know where you're at right now. It's just, what was it like when that happened? When you got that news, you just mortgaged a triplex, everything like this. What was the news like when it nailed you? You were maybe 23 or 4.
23 or 4, yeah. My wife and I just came home, and she's like, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "Well, I don't have a job anymore." And I'm like, so I got a little time to work in the yard. So she's like, "That's good." And I'm working in the yard, and my neighbor comes across and says, what are you doing home?" And I said, "Well, my company closed down today." He said, "Well, hey, have you ever thought about managing a Kentucky Fried Chicken?" And I said, "No, I really hadn't thought about that. I, grew up in the restaurant business." But he said, "Well, last year, this is 1979.
Right.
He said, "Last year, I made $60,000 managing Kentucky Fried Chicken." I was like,
In 79.
In 79. So he worked for Pete Harmon, who helped his people have ownership.
Right.
And said, give me the interview. And he said, well, first come and work in the business. And so I went there that night and worked, I think it was a Friday night. And I hadn't had that much fun working since I was in my dad's restaurant when I was a kid. And I thought that was so I thought, wow, we can make big money and have fun doing it. Yeah, okay, let's go. So I joined Harmon's organization, and 17 years with Harmon's.
Yeah.
They moved me to California almost immediately, and I did everything. I'm manager trainee, manager, training director, human resource director, finding managers and doing that human resource stuff, and district manager.
Wow.
So 17 years working for Pete Harmon, learning the restaurant business, how to really run it.
Yeah. Yeah. And you did that in Utah, right?
Well, I moved to California. I joined it in Utah.
Okay. Okay.
And then they moved me to California, and I went through, Harmon's had like 180 or 200 restaurants at the time.
Oh, man.
And so over that 17 years, I worked in a lot of different positions and learned a lot. And one day, this gentleman came to me and said, hey, have you ever thought about owning your own restaurants? And I said, pretty much that's what I think about every day. How do I get my own restaurants? And he said, well, I know a guy that's retiring and wants to sell his 2 KFC restaurants down in Hanford, California.
Hanford, holy moly, Hanford, California.
And, yeah, that's not the prettiest spot in California, but that restaurant did big business, and we ended up working out a deal, and I left Harmon's, and we grew from 2 stores to 80 KFCs over the course of
80.
Another 20 years.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah, I mean, it goes from abject, what the heck just happened? I just lost my job, to an immediate opportunity like that. I think that is absolutely amazing. Amazing.
So I have to ask, it's kind of ironic that you left the restaurant industry because your family was in it. You're like, heck no, I'm out. I don't want anything to do with this. Right. And then look at what you ended up getting into. What did you take from first of all, why were you done with it at a young age? And then what experience, or what did you take from growing up in the restaurant industry that served you well in your future endeavors?
I think to answer your first question, why didn't I want to continue in the restaurant business? I kind of in my head saw myself as like a businessman, carrying a briefcase, wearing a suit, walking into the office. And I got to do that in Career Concepts, and it was okay. But it was, it was I don't know, slippery slope on that thing. There was a lot of, I saw the inner office politics. I saw, the president of Career Concepts go off and become a gambling addict. I saw the power struggle in the corporate office, and basically those guys took that business down. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a mistake. And then when I went back to the restaurant business, this is really, really fun. And the interaction with the employees, the teamwork, and then the customers and spending time with the customers, like, this is more my niche.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really a factor of you just didn't like restaurant business. It was just more of you just saw yourself doing something different until you didn't.
Yeah. And my dad is an owner. I mean, I love the man, and he's, probably the hardest working guy I know.
Right.
So I watched him get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, come home at 10 o'clock at night, 6 days a week. I'm like, if that's the restaurant business as a manager, I don't want any part of that.
Yeah.
I like to have a life besides just work.
Yeah.
And so that's what did it. Then when I went to work with my friend Dave Wynn, who was across the street from me, and he showed me his schedule and how much he was making. And then like, okay, you can be in the restaurant business, you can make a lot of money, and you don't have to make, those crazy, crazy hours if you do it right. So that gave me, okay, I can do this.
You do bring up something pretty fun about this, and that is we have these preconceived notions, right? You brought about the career concepts. And I remember I wanted to go to Wall Street and work, and I got there. I loved it. But at the same time, you get into all the craziness and just think, I don't want to do this forever. And I find it amazing that you had all of these preconceived notions that you had to unlearn to realize that there are other opportunities in something that you knew very well. Isn't that funny how it comes full circle like that?
It is. You're right. Yeah. I always say you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And then you go out and find out, and you're like, okay, that's a good lesson. And change your paradigm a little bit.
Well, the funny thing about Kentucky Fried Chicken too, I mean, I hate to go backwards, but a lot of people don't know that it started in Salt Lake City, Utah. Right? So you were right there at the cusp of it, there at 33rd and State. And
I gotta tell you, working for Pete Harmon, who really, he and the Colonel, or more like Colonel had the recipe, but Pete had the recipe for success.
Got it.
And Pete Harmon, his office was 20 feet from my office at one point. And boy, that guy is just brilliant. He was brilliant.
Wow.
And I had the honor and opportunity to work from him and learn from him. Right. And I'll tell anybody who will listen that I'm not all that smart. I just copy what Pete Harmon did and try to work that program as much as I can.
So what were some of the top lessons that Pete taught you? That's because I remember growing up in Utah, we would see Harmon's Kentucky Fried Chicken everywhere, right? It was right there, and I was in Sandy, and I remember that one very well. Matter of fact, I think it might still be there. But what were some of the key lessons that you took away from that leader? Because it obviously has impacted you years later.
Pete always said, we're not in the chicken business, we're in the people business. And we work to grow our people. If we can work on growing the people in our restaurants and helping them learn and grow and develop, and that you will be successful because they're successful.
Yeah.
And we're in the people business because customers, and you just serve the customers a fantastic product, treat them right, they'll just keep coming back. So it's really all the people business is what they're in. And that's we kind of taken that and say we are a people development academy masquerading as fast casual restaurant.
That's awesome. And that is awesome. It's something that still carries true. It's obvious that it's passion. It's a passion of yours now because what you transitioned right from Kentucky Fried Chicken. What do you have now? And this is what I thought. It's so fun when I first met you. There's a couple other franchises that you've become involved with, in relatively recently in the last few years, right?
Yeah, again, in my head when I was younger, I was, I wanted to be the big player. 80 restaurants. I at one point even pitched like to KFC corporate, let me take over all 900 of your company restaurants, and we'll take them and run them. Just give us the opportunity because. But at the same time, I would get on the airplane on Monday morning. Right. And I think when I was driving over to the airport. Oh man, I don't want to leave. I want to stay home.
Right.
And then I think this is the life you chose. Every decision led you to this spot. And so you're in a spot where you either can't unwind this. You are Mr. Big Business here. We're doing $100 million in sales and restaurants in several states. And so I'm flying all over and doing this stuff. But I would think this is not exactly what I had imagined. I thought that's what I wanted, but another real lesson is like, if your whole life is business, then what about your family? Yeah. And what about your friends so I started thinking about how can I unwind this thing? And we started looking for a local concept. We started eating at Costa Vida over on Eagle Road.
Yeah.
They opened that, and it was so good. And so I started a conversation with Costa Vida, and truly that concept is so fantastic. Yeah. And I'll digress a little bit, but when I'd say to someone, "Hey, we own Kentucky Fried Chicken," they would say, "Yeah, it's really good. I can eat it like once a year." And we'd be like, okay. And so we ended up buying Costa Vida, and now we can say we own Costa Vida, and somebody will say, "That's my favorite restaurant." "Oh, that's my wife's favorite restaurant. We eat there every day." Yeah. And the difference in the type of food it is, and really the healthiness of it. You can eat as healthy as you want. You can eat food allergies, no problem. Yeah. You make the call. It just fit what we were looking for. So we made a play to buy that restaurant and develop this market. And that's also about the time that 2008 recession started pounding in, and our volume in the KFCs was tanking.
Right.
And the president of Yum Brands, a guy I have no respect for, but told me one day I was in a leadership role at KFC, right. And he said, "Denny, unless you support me in what we're trying to change the contract with the franchisees, I will make it my mission to destroy you."
You got to be kidding.
We helped you get those restaurants. We'll make sure we take them away. And we ended up I went to that meeting, and he looked at me and said, "You support this, Denny?" "I can't do it. I can't. It's just wrong for the franchisees to follow this new contract after the years of working on." He said, "Okay." And we got into a 5-year legal battle, and I ended up out of KFC and all my restaurants gone. But I did have, at that point, I did have 2 Costa Vidas. And now we've got 6, and we bought some Blaze restaurants. So we've come back from being, cut off by the knees. And
yeah.
But the great thing is now I am in my restaurants almost every day. Yeah. I don't leave home. We just, like my 2 sons work for me, my son-in-laws. It's a family business, and I work directly with my managers every day and have meetings with them weekly. And it's just, I travel only if I want to, and I still have a great lifestyle, but it's a lifestyle that I love. It's like, there's nothing about my life that I don't love right now.
Well, and
that's awesome.
It really is. And the thing is, first of all, I can validate that everyone wants to go there, because every time we give our kids a choice to go eat somewhere, they go, let's hit Costa Vida, man. And then on top of that, you can even see, for lack of a better word, the stoke that the employees there have. It's obvious those kids like to be there. And they have every time we're greeted over there, there's a degree of enthusiasm that you don't get everywhere else. I won't say the other restaurants that it looks like it's pure drudgery, but there is a significant difference that we see when we go to Costa Vida. Haven't been to Blaze yet, but in San Diego, yeah, but not here in Idaho.
Well, that's a great concept. The same type of service system as Costa Vida.
Yeah.
And we bought them about a year ago and have seen some great results. But like we just had corporate office, our location over here in Eagle, Chinden and Linder,
yeah,
was given the award of the Costa Vida of the Year for worldwide. Not that there's that many. There's only about 100 in the world, but Costa Vida of the Year, that's pretty cool. And then they came up to film the magic, and truly the magic is we try to teach our managers and our people that it's about having fun making money. We want the kids to have fun working for us, and we take that responsibility when we hire someone. We take it very personally that we want to give them a great work experience. We want them to have fun, because teenagers, if they're having fun and learning how to work and working fast and being great to customers, then they will take that with them where no matter where they go in their life, they will remember that first job as some great lessons that help them to set their course. And we take that seriously.
You know, I'm going to hit you up for a couple of jobs for my kids now.
I'd love to have them. So as they turn 16, bring them over.
Oh, they're 16. So
okay,
I'm bringing them over.
I have a quick question for you. You see in the news and social media and stuff like that, that there's, you know, whether it's the fallout from the pandemic or different generations, excuse me, that type of stuff, that companies are having a hard time filling positions and retaining staff and that type of thing. From your experience, what's going wrong? And why are you having so much success in a time when, you know, I go to some of my local restaurants and it's horrible right now. They just don't have the staff. There's help wanted signs everywhere. People can't find anybody.
Yeah. And it's the weirdest, tightest labor market I've ever seen, without question. And the government paying people to stay home, yeah, that hurts. Yeah. They didn't pay high schoolers to stay home. Thank goodness.
Yeah. There's a secret sauce.
They still want to work, and kids with talent want to work. People with talent want to work.
Right.
People that want to stay home and just be lazy or whatever, it's like, we don't want them to work for us anyway.
Sure. Yep.
So we continually look for talent. We continually hit up our good employees for their friends. Bring your friends.
Yeah.
And in our business, they either go into management or they go on to other things. That's kind of the reality of it.
Yep.
And so we have very solid kitchen staffs. We never closed one day for COVID. None of our people were given less hours. They've had a job, and our people just stayed with us, and they bring their friends or their family. And so having that continuity and that attitude of family and has just made a huge difference.
It's amazing how, you know, in talking with like the Mac brothers, you know, with Mo Betta and with you, with Costa Vida, and even with your previous experience in KFC, it seems like, I don't know, it's shocking to me that corporations that, especially in the restaurant industry, that are successful are the ones that focus on their staff, that focus on the people, just like you said. And in so many industries, I'm sure also in the less successful restaurant industries, that's just not happening. And it's mind boggling to me to see that happen. I'm in healthcare, and so many times the emphasis is on patient satisfaction. Mm-hmm. And it sometimes I sound like a broken record. I'm like, well, you can't have a satisfied patient until you have satisfied staff. You know, if you take care of the people, everything else kind of falls into place, you know. And it was the same with our snack friend. Remember Mo on that? I spaced off his first name, and I apologize, but you know, their success was directly related to taking care of the people.
Yep.
You know, what are some of the things that you do to emphasize that? What does that look like for Costa Vida?
Number one thing that we do with our management team is that we pay them based on the volume and profit of the restaurant. Certainly there's a salary involved too, but they are paid exactly the same way that we are. So my management team and me are all in this together. Wow. And so when the restaurant rises in volume, when it makes more profit, the management team, they participate in that, and there's no cap. The sky's the limit. I learned that from Pete Harmon, and that's one of the great lessons that I brought with him is you pay your management team well and get them on the same page as you, then they're looking at business from a whole different perspective. Yeah. And to give you an example, when we would buy KFC corporate markets, they'd have a talented manager in a low volume store. And I'd say, why are you here? They're like, well, I get paid $35,000, whether I run a low volume store or a high volume store. The high volume store is way more work. So why should I? And I'd be like, well, I'll tell you what, I'd explain our pay system to them. And one lady says, now let me get this straight. I'm a 15% partner with you, no investment. Yes. Yeah, give me that high volume store. Put it in the high volume store and it took off. Yeah. I mean, yeah. So you give your people a feeling of ownership, a pride of ownership. Wow. And then instead of when the rush comes, they're like, sweet, let's go. Rather than, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get out of here tonight. I might as well.
You have done a massive paradigm shift. And this is interesting. I don't know if I told you or not, I was in a human resources type of role, not a generalist, for nearly 25 years. And every time it came down, as has been emphasized here, on the people, treating the people right, and so on and so forth, to see a model that is sharing those rewards, that bounty across the board like that is mesmerizing. I know that money is very important in the business, but I can also see by the principles that you're espousing here that it isn't the only one thing. It's incorporated. By doing it together, it automatically comes, which is obvious from the success I've seen you have. And it's also obvious in the types of trials you've been able to overcome as businesses fail, as corporate politics gets into play. You're staying true to principles there, and it's pretty cool to watch. And Gary, this is exactly what we had seen in Mo Betta's and in other individuals that we've interviewed, whether that they've been in a business or in a sport or anything else. It's we're starting to see this trickle effect in everything. Amazing.
I think it's almost just like the law of gravity, right? It's a law of management that is just absolutely true. If you take care of your people and help them grow and don't worry as much about your own success, you worry about them, then somehow you're successful. And then when we have our manager saying, all right, guys, it's Friday night. This is going to be so fun. We're going to be so busy. Then the crew's going like, yay, this is going to be great. And they kind of crank up the music and crank up the smiles and they love the rush. Whereas if you weren't paid that way, it'd be like, oh my gosh, here comes the rush. It's going to be terrible. He's so busy. And then you get the attitude you see at so many restaurants, like,
yes,
they're like, why are you here bugging me? I need to clean something. I'm like, really?
Hey, Gary, I think we need to start a Stoke Meter Award.
Yeah,
we're gonna put one at Costa Vida. You've been given the Stoke Meter Award.
No, it's true though, and so much of it kind of just takes care of itself once you set that in motion, you know. And again, I don't know, I don't know if flabbergasted is the word, but you know, how do people that don't have that focus, you know, the only recourse you have at that point is let the beatings continue until people
until their morale improves, right?
Until morale improves. Yeah, it's like I don't get it, you know. And so that's one of the things that's been so fun with our Stoke Meter podcast is talking to people that are doing it right. And it's such a motivating factor.
It really is.
You know what I mean? When you see people that are doing it right, that are looking at the people, you know what I mean? So anyway, kudos to you. I just think it's fantastic.
Yeah,
well,
couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. Well, the thing is, this isn't, you're one that doesn't sit still. So one of the commonalities that we had is we love water sports. And we were talking about that. And then it was funny, Gary, because I was talking to Denny and he says, yeah, we're making a lake.
That's awesome.
And this is obviously not just something that is your own project. It's something that you're branching out into as well. So as many entrepreneurs, you're balancing so many good things. Just wondered what you could tell us about that. That sounds like a pretty fun project as well.
I love to be on the water. There's nothing better than a day on a boat. I love it.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted a house on a lake. And I have a son-in-law that has that same passion. Well, I think most of my kids do. But he's a developer, and we've been working on the project for years, and we finally found a spot out in Notice, Idaho, that we're building it's 180 acres, of which 100 acres are going to be lake. And I've got my house being built right now with, you know, I'm going to have a dock right there, the back of my house with a boat. And we're water skiing almost daily out there right now because got one lake's done. So we're out on the water, and there's just no boat wakes. And there's, I got smooth water for my slalom skiing anytime I want. It's, you know, it's just great. And so we're have this little development. It's going to be 15 lots deep, and I think we've pretty much sold out. Or not? We've still got 7 lots that we haven't brought on. They're coming into phase 2, but we got people like, pick me. So that's exciting.
It is.
And we think probably next spring we'll have those lots online, and our house will be done next spring, and I'll be sitting on my porch saying, hey, baby, could you drive the boat? Because
that's awesome.
That is so awesome. And that's the mind that I found of an entrepreneur. They're always tinkering, and they're always doing something that takes it to another level. And it's amazing to watch. It's inspiring. I love it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, Mo, my mind is, Mo, I'll tell you, it's a little weird sometimes, but it was last night. I was in the kitchen. I was kind of just thinking about, you know, different people that we talked to, kind of thinking about your podcast coming up. And there was a bag of M&Ms sitting on the counter. And, you know, and at the same time, it kind of hit me. It's like mentors and motivations. Like what all the successful people I know, the thing that kind of intrigues me is like, what are you talked about one mentor, that was a big one. Give us a couple other people that were either very influential in your life or mentored you. And then also like 2 or 3 things that motivate you, that get you up in the morning and get you jazzed about the day, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Well, besides Pete Harmon, my dad taught me how to work. There's no doubt about that. He was just a hardworking guy, and expected that of me and my brothers. And so definitely not afraid of hard work and just doing whatever it takes to make things happen. And he was an entrepreneur. I never knew him working for somebody else. He was always an entrepreneur. He instilled that in me. And then we talked about Pete Harmon. My dad also just such a man of integrity, and just would never. I remember one of the lessons early on at had a restaurant and they had a gas station, and for whatever reason I was working in the gas station at that point, and a guy came in, needed a battery. My dad was gone, so I had the battery, and I'm like, and the guy was kind of desperate, and I was, I'm probably like 18 or 19 at that point, and the guy was kind of desperate, and so how much is the battery? I'm like, I'm looking at it, the price is like $65. I'm like, $90? He goes, great. Yeah, it'll cost you $20 to put in. I like $20. Yeah, $20. So, and then my dad comes back and I said, yeah, Dad, I sold this battery that we normally sell for $60 for $90, plus it charging $20 to put it in. And my dad said, are you kidding me right now? He got on the phone, called the guy. I had to take the money to the guy's house and apologize for treating a customer poorly and taking advantage of him.
Wow.
That's awesome. What a
powerful lesson. Integrity, huh?
Oh.
And I was like, okay, business isn't about taking advantage of people. It's about giving them a great value for their money, taking care of them so they'll come back. And we have to have integrity in every transaction. And I was like, well, there's a lesson learned. And so my dad, being a man of integrity, it's like, okay, what a lesson for his son.
Shout out to your pops.
I got chicken skin right now. That is awesome. What a powerful lesson. And obviously it's impacted you decades later, right? Decades later.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah.
All right, part 2, motivators. What motivates you? What gets you going, man? What?
Well, I think one of the biggest motivations for me is my family. I have 6 kids. They're all grown. They're all married, and I got 19 grandkids. But one of my sons works as our chief financial officer / office manager / receptionist / he's got many titles. And then I have another son that's chosen to work in our business. He's our marketing and operations guy, and he loves to be in the restaurants and loves to spend time out there. And I've got a son-in-law that runs and is a partner with me on one of our restaurants, the one on entertainment, the new one. And he's loving being a franchisee. And then I've got another son-in-law that is a partner of mine that put money in to help Costa Vida get going, and that's really cool. Another son-in-law is the guy building the lake, but he also builds all our construction. Every time we build a building or do a build out, he's involved. So it's total family business. I'm motivated to teach my family to work, to help them have a lifestyle that is great, and teach them the principles of management so that legacy can go on. And so I think that is a pretty big motivator. I get up every day just looking forward to going out to work and being with my family and being with my managers, and it's just so different than when I was running that big corporate deal. And
yeah,
that's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, big time, Denny. This has been a fantastic interview. I appreciate the time. And I appreciate the connection. Just the words of wisdom that you just shared and expounded upon from our prior conversations is just, it's motivating. I don't know how it cannot be motivating. It just, and Gary, M&Ms, really?
I don't know.
Well, Who doesn't love M&Ms?
Yeah. Now I got those little M&Ms to look at. Yeah, all their cartoons and all that junk. But Denny, thank you for your time. This has been time well spent. Thank you for the principles that are shared, and certainly I believe anyone could benefit from what you just said, especially I'm saying especially a lot, but with their staffs, with the way organizations can run. A little bit different from what we typically do, but it's still nonetheless Stoke-meter worthy.
Well, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to talk to you guys.
You got it.
We'll talk again soon, man.
All right, deal.
See ya.